Hello everyone and welcome to Let's Talk Criterion. This month we'll be splitting up into two separate episodes, with the first half of the month being covered up to November 16th and then a second edition to take us to the end of the month so as to allow more time to cover Citizen Kane and the new 4K titles that will be available. Now I'll just start by mentioning that Criterion also recently announced the January release dates for the remaining two 4K titles they advertised earlier this year. That's Jane Campion's The Piano and Richard Lester's A Hard Day's Night. They'll both be releasing on the 18th and the 25th of January respectively. So we start in the UK on Monday, November the 1st with Wes Anderson's fantastic Mr. Fox. Now for many UK collectors, this is the Wes Anderson title that has proved the most elusive to complete their collection in Criterion of his oeuvre. But at last, it's arriving. Of course, Wes Anderson's foray into stop-action animation was to be later repeated with The Isle of Dogs, but this unique and charming departure into the animated world was backed up with a stellar cast led, of course, by George Clooney as Mr. Fox, with supporting voice cast of Meryl Streep, Jason Schwartzman, William Dafoe, Michael Gambon, Owen Wilson and Bill Murray. Based on the 1970 Roald Dahl children's book, Fantastic Mr. Fox is the story of a clever, quick, nimble and exceptionally well-dressed wild animal. A compulsive chicken thief turned newspaper reporter, Mr. Fox settles down with his family to a new foxhole in a beautiful tree, which just happens to be directly adjacent to three enormous poultry farms run by very vicious farmers Bogus, Bunce and Bean. Mr. Fox simply cannot resist the temptation. Joe Roth and Revolution Studios bought the film rights to Fantastic Mr. Fox in 2004. Wes Anderson signed on as the director with Henry Selick, who worked with Anderson on The Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou as the animation director. Anderson stated that he signed on because he loved Roald Dahl's book and he was one of his heroes. Originally, Cate Blanchett was to voice Mrs. Fox, but she left the project for undisclosed reasons. The score for the film was composed by Alexandre Desplat, and Jarvis Cocker commented that he wrote 4 songs for the film, one of which was included on the soundtrack, and that was Petey's song. The soundtrack itself also contains a selection of songs by the Beach Boys, the Bobby Fuller Four, Burl Ives, George Delarue and the Rolling Stones and other artists. The film mixes several forms of animation, but it consists primarily of stop motion. Animation took place in London on stage C at Three Mills Studios, and the puppets are created by McKinnon and Saunders, with Anderson himself directing the crew. Now this release initially came out in dual format with a detailed book accompanying the US release, but it's my understanding that here in the UK we'll just get the standard Digipack Blu-ray, and that is coming out very soon. Extras on the disc are an audio commentary featuring Anderson, storyboard animatic for the entire film, footage of the actors voicing their character, puppet construction, stop motion setups and the recording of the score, interviews with the cast and crew, puppet animation tests, a photo gallery of puppets, props and sets, animated awards acceptance speeches, audio recording of author Roald Dahl himself reading the book on which the film's based. Fantastic Mr. Dahl, that's an hour-long 2005 documentary about the author. Gallery of Dahl's original manuscripts. Discussion and analysis of the film. Stop-motion Stony robot commercial made by Wes Anderson, and a written essay by critic Erika Wagner, and on the Blu-ray only there's a 2002 article on Dahl's Gypsy House by Anderson and White Cape, a comic book used as a prop in the film, and drawings, original paintings and other ephemera. And the cover art to the Fantastic Mr. Fox is exceptional, and that's by Turlough Griffin with F. Ron Miller. Fantastic Mr. Fox has been a long favourite book from one of UK's foremost children's authors, and this film adaptation by Wes Anderson does it full justice. The Blu-ray release comes out at £25.99 here in the UK on Monday the 1st of November, and its spine number is 700. Moving on in release date order, we have Federico Fellini's La Strada. Already available as part of the Essential Fellini box set, this film arrives on Blu-ray, and with this breakthrough film, Federico Fellini launched both himself and his wife and collaborator, Giulietta Massina, to international stardom, breaking with the neo-realism of his earlier work in favour of a personal, poetic vision of life as a bittersweet carnival. The infinitely expressive Messina registers both childlike wonder and heartbreaking despair as Gelsomina, loyal companion to the travelling strongman Zampano, played by Anthony Quinn, in a towering physical performance whose callousness and brutality gradually wears down her gentle spirit. La Strada possesses the purity and timeless resonance of a fable and remains one of cinema's most exquisitely moving visions of humanity, struggling to survive in the face of life's cruelties. Fellini called La Strada a complete catalogue of his entire mythological world, a dangerous representation of his identity that was undertaken with no precedent whatsoever. As a result, the film demanded more time and effort than any of his other works, before or since, and the development process was long and torturous. There were various problems during production, including insecure financial backing, problematic casting and numerous delays. Finally, just before the production completed shooting, Fellini suffered a nervous breakdown that required medical treatment so he could complete the principal photography. Initial critical reaction to the film was harsh, though, and the film's screening at the Venice Film Festival was the occasion of a bitter controversy that escalated, in fact, into a public brawl between Fellini's supporters and his detractors. Despite the inherent problems he had with the production, it received massive critical approval worldwide and resulted indeed in him netting the Best Foreign Language Film Oscar. Fellini secured financing through the producers Dino De Laurentiis and Carlo Ponti, who wanted to cast Silvano Magano, that's his wife, as Gelsomina, and Burt Lancaster as Zampano, but Fellini refused these choices. Violetta Massina had been the inspiration for the project all along, and Fellini was determined never to accept any alternative to her. For Zampano, Fellini had hoped to cast a non-professional, and to that end he tested a number of circus strongmen, but no avail. He also had trouble finding the right person for the role of Il Matto, but in the end he cast American actor Richard Basehart in that role. The entire score for La Strada was written by Neo Rota after principal photography was completed. The main theme is a wistful tune that appears first as a melody, played by the fool on a kit violin and later by Gelsomina on her trumpet. And Rota's main theme to the film was adapted into a 1954 single and was sung by Perry Como under the title Love Theme for La Strada, Travelling Down a Lonely Road. There's no underestimating La Strada's power, and despite the fact that Fellini was partly responsible for launching a cinematic movement known as neorealism, it has been widely viewed as a definitive break from this. This resulted in certain critics vilifying Fellini for, as they saw it, referring to pre-war attitudes of individualism, mysticism and preoccupation with pure style. But sometimes it takes a really brave filmmaker to develop their own style, and this of course would be built upon in many of his later films. La Strada contains just a smattering of extras on the Blu-ray, and they include an alternate English dubbed soundtrack featuring the voices of Anthony Quinn and Richard Basehart. There's an audio commentary from 2003 by Peter Bondanella. He's the author of The Cinema of Federico Fellini. An introduction from 2003 by the filmmaker Martin Scorsese, Giulietta Massina, The Power of a Smile, a documentary from 2004, Federico Fellini's autobiography, it's a documentary originally broadcast on Italian television in 2000, and a written essay by the film critic Christina Newland. Now, it's already available in the collection as a DVD, so it retains its spine number of 219, and it releases on Blu-ray in the US on Tuesday, November 2nd, and as I mentioned earlier, it's available in the Essential Films of Fellini collection as well. Now we come to a new box set of 5 films directed by the Hong Kong auteur Tsui Hark. Once Upon a Time in China, 1 through 5. It comes in a beautiful package, as you can see now, and a detailed booklet. Tsui Hark started his career with Zoo Warriors from the Magic Mountain and is hailed as one of the foremost Asian film directors, having directed The Blade before he went on to produce John Woo's A Better Tomorrow. He's viewed as a major figure in the golden age of Hong Kong cinema and is regarded by critics as one of the masters of Asian cinematography. Once Upon a Time in China is undoubtedly one of his best achievements, and it gets a fitting box set release from Criterion. It sets a new standard for martial arts spectacle and launched action star Jet Li to international fame. And it brings to vivid life the colourful world of China in the late 19th century, an era of immense cultural and technological change, as Western imperialism clashed with tradition and public order was upended by the threats of foreign espionage and rising nationalism. Against this turbulent backdrop, one man, the real-life martial arts master, physician and folk hero Wong Fai-hung, emerges as a noble protector of Chinese values as the country hurtles towards modernity. Conceived by Hong Kong New Wave leader Tsui Hark, this epic cycle is not only a dazzling showcase for some of the most astonishing set pieces ever committed to film, but also a rising celebration of Chinese identity, history and culture. The fact that this director didn't make one but 5 of these films is truly memorable, fully establishing his character Wong Fai-hung in the first film. Its sequel, that's Once Upon a Time in China 2, sees the White Lotus sect, that's a xenophobic cult, going around attacking Westerners and destroying everything regarded as alien to Chinese culture. In Once Upon a Time in China 3, in the late 19th century, China, during the Qing dynasty, Chinese sovereignty is being eroded by foreign imperialism. Empress Dowager Cixi and Li Hongzhang decide to stage a lion dance competition to showcase Chinese martial arts and restore national pride. Interested parties from all over China are invited to participate and compete for the title of the Lion Dance King. In Once Upon a Time in China 4, the Red Lantern sect is a feminist and xenophobic cult, and its members are all female and are mainly armed with rope weapons, bows and ether-filled lanterns. Oh, sounds exciting. When the cult attacks a German medical clinic, Wong intervenes and tries to stop them from killing the foreigners. And finally, in Once Upon a Time in China 5, after the armies of the Eight Nation Alliance occupy Beijing, the collapse of the Qing dynasty is imminent. Wong Fai-hung and his companions return to Foshan in southern China and prepare to move to Hong Kong, then a British colony. In the meantime, Wong Fai-hung develops a love triangle with his romantic interests, 13th Aunt and 14th Aunt. It's safe to say that you have to be into martial arts really to enjoy these films, but it's undoubtedly entertaining as a collection and it takes you into a really exciting world. Now the extras in this set are also very impressive. We have, for Once Upon a Time in China and Once Upon a Time in China 2, a alternate stereo Cantonese soundtrack featuring theatrical sound effects and monaural Cantonese soundtrack. For Once Upon a Time in China 3, new interviews with director Tsui Hark, Film Workshop co-founder Nashun Shi, editor Marco Mack and the critic Tony Raines. Excerpts from audio interviews with Lee conducted in 2004 and 2005. Deleted scenes from Once Upon a Time in China 3. Documentary from 2004 about the real-life martial arts hero Wong Fai-hung. From Spikes to Spindles, a 1976 documentary about the New York City Chinatown, featuring uncredited work by Tsui. Excerpts from a 2019 masterclass given by martial arts choreographer Yun Wo-ping. Archival interviews featuring Tsui and actors John Wakefield, Donnie Yen and Yen Shi-kwan. Behind the scenes footage for both Once Upon a Time in China and Once Upon a Time in China and America. And making of programme from 1997 on Once Upon a Time in China and America. And a written essay, of course, on the films by the critic Maggie Lee, and an essay on the cinematic depictions of Wong by novelist Grady Hendrix. Once Upon a Time in China is available in the US only from Tuesday, November 16th as Spine 1103. Now we come to our first 4K release, and it's a re-release of the David Lynch film Mulholland Drive. Now this is considered by many to be one of his most enigmatic and mesmerising films. It's a love story in the city of dreams. Blonde Betty Elms, played by Naomi Watts, has only just arrived in Hollywood to become a movie star when she meets an enigmatic brunette with amnesia, played by Laura Harring. Meanwhile, as the two set off to solve the second woman's identity, filmmaker Adam Kesher, Justin Theroux, runs into ominous trouble while casting his latest project. David Lynch's seductive and scary vision of Los Angeles' dream factory is one of the true masterpieces of the new millennium. It's a tale of love, jealousy and revenge like no other. David Lynch is one of those directors you just try to understand, but his choices make it deliberately difficult to engage with his strange, surrealistic world. But that, for me, has always been part of his attraction. From his early days, Eraserhead, through The Elephant Man to Twin Peaks, he mixes the subordinary with the surreal, with the viewer all the time feeling there's something I'm missing here. Mulholland Drive is a street and road in the eastern Santa Monica Mountains of Southern California, and it's named after pioneering Los Angeles civil engineer William Mulholland. The western rural portion in LA and Ventura counties is named Mulholland Highway. The American-French co-production was originally intended to be a television pilot, and a large portion of the film was shot in 1999, with Lynch's plan to keep it open-ended for a potential series. After viewing Lynch's cut, however, television executives rejected it, so he then decided to provide an ending to the project, making it into a full-length feature film. The half-pilot, half-feature result, along with Lynch's characteristic surrealist ending, has left the general meaning of the film's events open to interpretation. And Lynch has declined to offer an explanation of his intentions for the narrative, leaving his audiences, critics and cast members even to speculate on what actually transpires. Lynch cast Naomi Watts and Laura Harring by their photographs. He called them in respectively for half-hour interviews with them and told them that he had not seen any of their previous television or film works, and Harring considered it fateful that she was involved in a minor car accident on the way to the first interview, only to learn that her character would also be involved in a car accident in the film. And Watts arrived wearing jeans for the first interview, so Lynch told her to go back and come back the following day more glammed up. And she was offered the part 2 weeks later. Justin Theroux features as Adam Kesher. Now, of course, he went on to star in the HBO series The Leftovers, and Robert Forster appears as Detective McKnight, and his own composer, Angelo Badalamenti, features as Luigi Castellani, with Dan Hedaya as Vincenzo Castellani, and the brilliant Lee Grant is Louise Bonner. Now, this film has garnered much discussion and speculation, including the proffering of a dream analysis for it, but Lynch still keeps very tight-lipped about it. Well, certainly as an introduction to this auteur's filmmaking, it's a great start to Lynch's work, with Blue Velvet running a close second. Now, the extras from the original Blu-ray have been ported across to the 4K UHD presentation. Now, the UHD presentation will have Dolby Vision HDR, and there'll be one Blu-ray with the film and another with special features. Now, on the Blu-ray and DVD, we have director David Lynch in interviews from 2015 with Lynch, Deming, actors Naomi Watts, Justin Theroux and Laura Harring, composer Angelo Badalamenti, and production designer Jack Fisk, and the casting director Joanna Ray. On-set footage, a deleted scene, and a written booklet featuring an interview with Lynch from the 2005 edition of filmmaker and writer Chris Rodley's book Lynch on Lynch. Now, many people will have this in the collection from the US edition, of course, so it will be a choice to them whether or not they choose to upgrade to the 4K version. But the price has been dropping in recent weeks, and of course there's a forthcoming Barnes & Noble sale, and that will start in November, of course, and that will see it drop by 50% of the normal retail price. Mulholland Drive will be released on Tuesday 16th of November as Spine 779, and I'll just mention also in the UK we'll be receiving a Blu-ray collector's release set on 4K as well from Studio Canal on Monday 6th of December, and that will be the Criterion 4K scan. So on that note, we end the first part of the November release preview. I'll see you in the middle of this month with the second half of this month's releases, and that includes The Thin Red Line from Terrence Malick, finally coming to the collection in the UK, and the 4K arrival of Citizen Kane, Menace to Society and Uncut Gems. As always, I welcome your comments and thank you so much for subscribing to my channel. So until next time, stay well all of you and keep watching those classic movies.
Why am I alone? Why am I alone? Traveling down a lonely